Hello, welcome to Champs Drink Champs. This is just Taylor here. Shelby is at a work function tonight, and we were going to record together later, but I told her to not even worry about it. I have a topic that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. So I'm doing a solo episode. I will give you guys the forewarning. I microdosed today, and lately my microdosing has been taking me down like not rabbit holes necessarily, but it's like opening up my brain so much. I just really want to learn. So I'm going to try to not go off on tangents. Um, the topic that I have tonight, I've been wanting to talk about it for a while, actually. And there just hasn't been the right time. And I think there hasn't been the right time because it needed to be right now. My therapy appointment yesterday was kind of about this topic. And I hadn't really taken the time to sit down and like actually write out an episode. And I think it was just because my brain wasn't there. But with my brain just wanting to learn so much and being so open and excited about learning, yeah, I feel very excited about it. So, I also have horrible allergies. So if I have to pause and sneeze, sorry if I cut out a little bit. And microdosing always makes me very thirsty. So if I have to keep pausing to drink, it's just because I'm dying of thirst. So, anyways, just some caveats here. Um, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So, the topic I'm going to talk about tonight is called the Stoic way of life. I know that that sounds so boring. It doesn't sound boring to me because I love stuff like this. I love philosophy. I love psychology. I love all of that type of stuff, but I know it sounds really boring. So please stay with me because I promise it's not going to be boring. I listened to, I think I, so sorry. I think I have mentioned this podcast before in one of our episodes, and it is a psychedelic therapy frontiers. They did an episode about Stoicism about a year ago, and I listened to that podcast episode and I was like, holy shit, like this is the coolest thing ever. This is already kind of how Shelby and I are living our life. Like they really just have a really cool and unique way of looking at your life here on earth. So, in true Taylor solo episode fashion, it is going to take a spiritual route, but also not at the same time. But yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. So, a little known fact about me is I love history. Before I changed my major to psychology and therapy, I was actually double majoring in education and history because I really wanted to teach history to high school students. And then my plan was to start in elementary school, finish my degree in history, move to high school to teach history. And then I wanted to teach like in a college. I wanted to be a professor in a college for history because I love history so much. My favorite like era of history is the Roman Empire and like Greek life, like mythology and all of that. I think it is so interesting. I think it is so fun to learn about. And this is kind of where Stoic philosophy was born. It was born in 600 BC. And it is essentially the first written form of self help that people are able to identify. It's so hard for my brain to comprehend BC times, which BC is before Christ. That seems so long ago. And it's so hard for me to understand and like accept that there was life that happened in 600 BC. Like that is just so crazy to me. And the fact that we are able to still identify things from that time and still like create a time frame of things from that time, it is wild to me. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. If I was able to like go back in time, I would love to go back to like the 1920s and see like the flapper girls and um all of the like alcohol being banned and all of that. But then I would also really love to go back to like the Roman Empire times and just see what life was like that long ago. Like that's so long ago. So the Stoic philosophy has deep roots in ancient Greek and Roman life. and it teaches the development of self-control as a mean of overcoming destructive emotions. So a lot of people, when you think of Stoicism, you think of like not having any emotion, like kind of like being bored and just like bland, like nothing's fun, nothing's whatever. And that's not it at all. And that was like when I saw this podcast episode, I actually almost didn't listen to it on the psychedelic therapy frontiers because I was like, that's going to be so boring. And I'm so glad that I listened to it because it's just really a philosophy that's designed to make us more resilient, happier, more virtuous, and more wise. So that is kind of their four pillars of this philosophy is to be resilient, to be happy, to have very high virtue, and to be wise and intelligent. So, as a result, better people, better parents, and better professionals come from living this way of life. So, without going so deep into the history, which I think is really fascinating, but I promise I will lose you guys because everyone's not into that. Um, I really wanted to talk about this because it talks about being an advocate and detaching oneself from external outcomes and focusing on what is within your control. So that's kind of what our whole podcast is about is really, and especially our last episode of meeting yourself where you're at, is to be happy in life. Like our whole podcast is about being happy in life, to meet yourself where you're at, to let go of things of control. So really, Shelby and I were already living this life so much without even really realizing that we were living this life. So, Stoics teach individuals to focus on their own thoughts, actions, and values rather than being overly concerned with external events or the opinions of others. So, if you go all the way back to our episodes about values, if you have not taken the time to really figure out what your personal values are, I highly challenge you, highly, I almost said highly recommend, but I'm trying not to say that. I challenge you to do that because it really, you can learn so much about yourself. And it also, like what you put out into the world, you attract back. So if you're putting out your values, you're going to attract that back, which only in turn makes you happier with your life. So, this idea or this philosophy is not a religion, but it does have really strong roots in a spiritual base. I connect with this idea so deeply because it's so rooted in making your life better here on earth. You guys know I'm a very spiritual person. I believe that our souls have been sent down to this earth to learn lessons, to gain a higher power in whatever the soul world is, and to help us in our next life. I believe in reincarnation. I kind of feel like I take a bit of every different religion and kind of have created my own idea of a religion, my own idea of beliefs, because I do believe in reincarnation, which that is a Buddhist way of life. And so, yeah, this is all about your life here on earth, which I think if you focus on these things here on earth, then your soul is going to elevate and become higher and better because you are focusing so much on good things here on earth. So, again, the good energy that you put out in the world will pay you back in whatever happens after death. It's kind of a joke with Tony and I that he's like, because I'm a very fast driver. We drive back and forth to Salt Lake a lot. I drive pretty fast. And he was like, you're going to get pulled over. You're going to get a ticket. And I was like, stop saying that because what you put out in the world, you get back. If I'm putting out like, oh my gosh, which this is probably silly. It probably is. But every time I drive down, I'm like, there's not going to be a cop today. Like, I'm not going to get pulled over. And I literally will have feelings sometimes of like, oh, there's a cop, and I'll slow down and there'll be a cop around the corner. So I always tell Tony, I'm like, what you're putting out into the world, you're going to get back. If you're putting out this fear of every single time we drive down to Salt Lake that there's going to be a ticket if you go 5 miles over the speed limit, you're going to get a ticket. Like, put out there like, oh, there's not going to be a cop. I'm going to get there fast. I'm going to jam to my music. I'm going to listen to my book. Like, and you'll just live a happier life. And I tell Tony that too in the morning when he's like having a bad day or grumbling, whatever, about going to work. And I'll be like, what you put out, you get back. And sometimes he'll do the same to me when I'm doing it. And I'll be like, oh, don't use my advice against me because I know, but like, I just want to be grumpy right now. But it's so true. What you put out, you get back. So if you put good out, you will get things back. And in my mind, in my little religious, spiritual mind that I have made for myself, that makes me kind of not excel. What's a word I'm looking for? Like, it just makes me a little like my soul a little bit better in the soul world. So, what ancient Stoics believe is that we learn from those before us, but we allow ourselves to find out more about the world as it is and to change or abandon what is no longer working from the past. I'm going to read that again because I just really love it so much. We learn from those before us, but we allow ourselves to find out more about what the world. Let's see, let me start again. We learn from those before us, but allow ourselves to find out more about the world as it is and to change or abandon what is no longer working from the past. I really think that that is so beautiful and such a beautiful sentence to just live your life, to take that into every aspect of your life. So, the Stoic spiritual path calls us to pay attention to ourselves, to take care of ourselves through these inner spiritual exercises. Really knowing ourselves requires a relationship with ourselves that forms oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I wrote down all of these notes today, and my dyslexia is so bad today. So I'm so sorry. Really knowing ourselves requires a relationships with ourselves that forms the basis of all the Stoic spiritual exercises. Every spiritual exercise is a dialogue with others, with the world around us, and most importantly, with ourselves. So there is a lot of overlap in the Stoic philosophy with the Buddhist philosophy. I've really studied Buddhist and Hinduism philosophy because that's what yoga's roots are in. So part of my teacher training is I had to like write reports on the different deities and different parts of the religion. I've attended like Buddhist worship services, which I think are so beautiful because they're based so heavily in meditation and turning inward. So the Stoic philosophy is a lot like the Buddhist philosophy, that we speak to ourselves with kindness, we speak to the world and others around us with kindness. And that's kind of the basis of all you need for life. Let me grab some water. Okay, so sorry. It's so hard to record by yourself and not be able to drink water. Okay, so some things that Stoics teach. So I got all of this information from the podcast episode of Psychedelic Therapy Frontiers, and then from dailystoic.com, which is a really lovely website that really dives into this idea and the history. If you're interested in the history, all the Greek history, all the Roman history, it really dives so deep into all of that, which again, I'm not going to go into because I don't want to bore people that aren't into that stuff. But that's where I'm getting all of the information. No psychology today, unfortunately. So some things that Stoics teach. They teach inner transformation. So Stoicism emphasizes the importance of inner transformation and cultivating virtues such as wisdom, justice, temperance, courage, and compassion. This process of self-improvement and self-mastery can be seen as a spiritual journey towards personal growth and enlightenment. We talk a lot about inner transformation on this podcast. The full moon that's coming up next week is all about inner transformation. This is a thing that should be the forefront in your mind all the time. We should always be striving to be better than we were yesterday. I'll go into this a little later. We don't have to be perfect, but we should be striving to be better. That's just plain and simple. We should really just work on being better human beings. After my day at work today, I would love to tell every single patient that I saw today, like, you need to work on your inner self and work on being a better person, because today was really hell. And I get people have their off days, and that's okay. But it should be your focus every day when you wake up is to just be a good person and to be a little bit better than you were yesterday. The second thing is connection to a greater whole. So it teaches individuals to recognize their connection to the broader universe and view themselves as a part of a larger whole. This recognition of interconnectedness can be seen as a spiritual perspective, as it encourages a sense of unity and harmony with the world. The next thing is cultivating inner peace. Stoicism places a strong emphasis on finding inner peace and tranquility amidst I cannot talk today. I sincerely apologize. External challenges. The practice of cultivating a calm and centered state of mind can be seen as a spiritual practice, as it involves seeking a deeper sense of peace and harmony within oneself. And then the last thing is ethics and moral values. So it's emphasized the cultivation and of virtuous qualities such as justice, kindness, temperance, and integrity. These ethical principles can be seen as a guiding individuals towards a more spiritual way of living, as they encourage actions aligned with higher moral values. I wish when I left the church at 18 years old, I think I shared in the episode about me leaving the church, I went through like a big bout of atheism where I did not believe in anything. I think that's where my fear of death really started to percolate, go over the top, is because I genuinely did not believe in anything. I was so angry at this religion and this teaching that I've had my whole entire life that I could not allow myself to believe in anything else. I wish that I had known about this philosophy and this way of life when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, all the way up until I was 24 years old. I wish that I knew about this, because I feel like it would have saved me a lot of heartache, a lot of confusion, a lot of fear, because I think that this is just such a beautiful way to connect with a spiritual side of yourself. So if you are struggling with religion, or if you are struggling with your spiritual side, I think that this is a really, really good topic to really dive into and to research and find out like things you can do to bring this into your daily life, which I'll go into some of these. But I think it's just a really beautiful thing if you're struggling in the spiritual realm. So some core beliefs in this philosophy: live in a way with nature. I have been talking about this a lot. Nature is so, so healing. I think I've been harping on it so much because I didn't really understand how healing nature actually was. I was kind of just like the person that, like, yeah, being outside's kind of cool, like whatever. But now that I've really been embracing it and like letting myself experience nature, letting myself go out and like listen to the birds singing, letting myself go out and look at my flowers that are coming up outside, like hiking, like all of the things that are outdoors has been the most healing thing for me. I've also been kind of looking and getting into, this sounds really scary. It's not scary, witchcraft. And part of witchcraft is honoring and respecting nature. I hate the winter more than anything. I hate the snow. I hate the winter. But as I have been getting into witch things, it really talks about honoring nature, honoring the seasons, honoring all of that, and like noticing your body, if you're a female, your cycle, noticing all these things as seasons flow, as nature flows. And when you really pay attention to it, it truly is so beautiful. Trees naturally give off a chemical that make you feel grounded and feel happy. If you notice, if you go up to the mountains and you go on a hike, or you go sit by a river in the mountains, even if you go sit with your back against a tree in your backyard, you instantly feel happier. It is because trees give off a chemical that makes you feel happier. So nature is so healing. And I love that this is like the number one core belief for the Stoic philosophy, because it's become a number one belief for me that if I am feeling stressed, if I'm feeling sad, if I'm feeling happy, if I am wanting to just go do something, like I go outside. I just read a book outside the other day. I went for a 30-minute walk during my lunch today. Like, it's just really beautiful to experience nature. So I know I've been talking about it all the time. I know, but it's because I believe in it so much. If you are not incorporating nature into your daily life, I highly recommend that you do it. I know that Shelby is like a sun goddess and she sits out in the sun any moment that she can. And I love that. Like, she is always out in the sun, and the sun is so healing. So really incorporate nature into your daily life. Okay, the next core belief is sorry, I got all tangled here. Happiness isn't found in things. It is found by our values and the choices we make to make the happiest life. To approach life in this way involves a complete revolution of our thinking and attitudes. We must stop believing that happiness consists in things and realize instead that it consists alone in our virtuous living. When we put external things ahead of virtue, we separate our individual nature from the universal one that connects us all together. Toxic emotions arise along with anxiety and isolation. I think that that one's pretty self-explanatory. I think that they're like the saying is money can't buy happiness. I mean, money can buy things that make you happy. Money can buy experiences that make you happy, but actual money does not buy you happiness. So I think what this is saying is to have that happiness in life, you don't have to have physical things. It's more of an energy exchange, the happiness is. Okay, the next core belief is we can't control external events. We can only control our thoughts, opinions, decisions, and duties. Basically, it is what it is. Look at what you can control and what you can't control. I'm going to use my leg as an example because this was in my therapy appointment yesterday. My therapy appointment this week was all over the place. We went from my leg to family drama to the way I feel about myself to my moon circle events. Like, we were literally all over the place. And I was just like, this was a very, very, very productive hour in therapy because that's exactly how my brain works. Like, I can't just focus on one thing the whole time, like bouncing around for whatever reason. As you can see with this podcast episode, I'm bouncing around all over the place, but that is really how my brain works. So we talked about my leg in therapy yesterday, and I cannot change the way that my body is set up. I cannot change the way that my veins are set up. I cannot change the fact that I got this ulcer. What I can change is my attitude with it. And my therapist asked me yesterday, he was like, what is one good thing that has happened with this leg? Like with you having this ulcer this past year and a month. And I was like, you know what? I've never thought about it. And he was like, well, take a minute, check in, and think about this question. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I would never know my strength. I would never know my strength if this ulcer did not happen. Not only the strength of my mind, the strength of my body. I have consistently worked out almost every single day since I had this leg ulcer. I'm now training for not one, but two 10Ks and then a half marathon next year. And I can promise you, I would have never done the 10K without my leg ulcer, because the whole reason I signed up for the 10K was to have a control over my body that was my choice, not my body's choice, not my veins choice, not Tony's or my mom's or my sister's or Shelby's choice, something that was me in control of what my body could do. Nobody else is going to be helping me get up those two mountains except for me. And that's exactly the reason why I even signed up for this, is because my body has felt so out of control this past year that this was the one thing I felt like I can control. I can train for it. I can force myself up and down the mountain, and I can cross that finish line, and it's going to feel really great. And I would have never done that if this leg did not happen. So that's a really good example of something that you can't change, but you can change your attitude for it. You can change your thoughts. You can change and reframe the way you think about things. You can find the specks of good within the bad. Our episode about glimmers, focusing on the glimmers. Yes, shitty things happen, but there is something beautiful in every single day. And if you have not sat down, I know like when we were doing our episode on glimmers, every day for like a week, I shared what my glimmers were every day. I actually think I'm going to start doing that again because that was so fun. But you can find good things every single day. And if you have not really sat down at the end of the day and been like, okay, what are my glimmers for the day? What are the good things that have happened today? You really need to start, because that is a perfect way that you can control your thoughts and you can focus on the good things in life, even though it's bad. Like today, I had a horrible fucking day at work. Horrible. I literally, like, my supervisor walked by at a point and I was like, I will not be here next week. Like, I'm fucking done. I am so done today. But then I taught an awesome yoga class. I subbed for somebody and it was a power yoga class. I haven't taught power yoga for so long, and it was so freaking fun. And I got done and I was like, holy shit, that was so fun. I've really missed power yoga. Like, I needed to do power yoga more. And guess what? I completely forgot about my bad day at work. And I'm still like wanting to come in next week. Like, it is what it is. It's a different, like, it was a bad day. Okay. So when you start to focus and notice the good and happy, your bad days just kind of go away. They're still there. You can still acknowledge that it happened, but you don't focus on it as much. And you don't let a bad day become a bad life. Okay, so we have all been given the inner resources we need to thrive. I have a few Greek words in here and a few Greek names. We know how a homegirl is at pronouncing things. So we're going to do the best we can. So a man named Arius Didymus wrote about these inborn resources. We each have our own implanted gifts that can lead us to a virtuous life. Our personalities suit us differently to different paths of ethical development. We all have different launching points, but these inborn tools together with hard effort will get us to where we want to go. We must focus on the task at hand and waste not a moment on the tasks that are not ours. We must have courage. We must be fair. We must check our emotions, and we must, above all, be wise. I love that. I think I love Greek history. That's just a side note. I love Greek history so much because it's so beautiful. It's all just like poems and just like short little phrases that mean something so beautiful. So I don't know. There's not much to say about that. I think it's just so beautiful. And I just really love ancient Greece philosophy. We must accept and let go of toxic emotions. Fear and anger are big ones. What you resist persists. I want to talk about this a little bit and kind of argue it a little bit. I know that holding on to toxic emotions is not good, but just letting go of them is also not good. What you resist persists. If you have anger within you and you don't confront it, you don't deal with it, you don't heal it, it's going to keep pecking at you and keep bugging you. You can't just let go of it and just assume that you're never going to have to deal with it again. Like, hi, all the issues with my dad, they're still here and I'm turning 34 years old. Like, I could have dealt with them, when I was 20 and kind of be through the shitty parts, but I didn't and so it's going to persist. So accepting your emotions. If you are not an emotional person, Shelby and I kind of talked about that our last episode. If you are not an emotional person, it's hard for you to accept and confront your emotions. I challenge you to try it. whatever, if you're in a situation at work, or if you're in a situation where you're driving and somebody cuts you off, if you are at the grocery store and they don't have your favorite whatever, check in with what the emotion is. What are you feeling? Are you feeling angry? Are you, when you have anxiety, instead of trying to let it go and be like, go away, go away, go away, how about you breathe into it? When I'm having anxiety, and I just sit there and I'm like, okay, brain, what the hell are you trying to tell me? Why are you making me feel like I'm a crazy person? What are you so afraid of? When I sit and I breathe into it and I listen to it, that's when I'm able to work through it. Trying to just let go of it and not have it phase you is not going to work in the trauma world and with your brain. You have to accept what emotions you have, because they will still be there until you take the time to work through them. I'm going to grab some water. Okay. The next one is, we cannot complain or blame anyone else when it comes to our demons. Originally, I did not agree with this belief at all, because sometimes your trauma is brought on by other people, and hell yeah, you can absolutely blame them for bringing that trauma into your life. But once I researched it more, I found a saying by, we're going to try this again, Herculetus. I think it's Herculetus. And it says, ethos anthropo daemon, which translates to one's character is a personal god. This means if we allow our character to turn bad, then we will have a tyrant exercising a reign of terror over our lives. Yes, we all have trauma in our life. I say that all the time. Nobody's immune to trauma. But if you allow your character to turn bad because of the trauma and put all of that onto another person, that's on you. And that sounds really mean. That's why I had to read it again. And I was like, wait, what the fuck did I just write? So I want to explain that a little bit. If you let your trauma turn your character bad, that is on you, not on the other person. Again, try to find the good in bad situations. Me and the physician assistants that I work for, him and I had a good conversation today. And he was like, if you could go back to when you were 18, but you had your mind that you have today, what would you change? And I was like, oh, I would go to school earlier. I would already be a therapist. I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have gotten married at 18. I would have had Tony and I go through therapy before we got married. Like, I had all of these things that I was saying. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, what about you? Like, what would you change? And he was like, honestly, I don't think anything. And I was like, oh, good for you. Like, really? And he was like, no, because it wouldn't lead me to where I am today. Like, I'm so happy today. I have 3 kids. Like, I have a great wife. Like, I have all these things. And if I had not taken the path that exactly the way that I took, it wouldn't lead me to where I am today. And I was like, and then he like went to a room to go see a patient and like didn't even acknowledge this truth bomb that he just dropped on me. And I was like, holy shit, like that's 100% right. My point of telling this story is trauma sucks. And trauma and horrible things happen to people that don't deserve it to happen to them, for sure. But if your life does not happen the way that it happens, what would your future be like? It wouldn't be where you are today. If I didn't get married to Tony at 18 years old and didn't live the life that I lived from when I was 18 to 23, 24, I would literally not be the person that I am today. I've had a lot of people ask me, like, if you could take back your affair, would you do anything different? And I'm like, as fucked up as it is, and Tony and I have talked about this as well, and we both have the same stance with it. We wouldn't change a single damn thing. And that sounds so horrible and so sad because I hurt him so much. He was so hurt and I betrayed his trust so much. but it also made him a stronger person, as well as made me a completely different person than I was. And he's like, Tony has told me, he's like, I wouldn't want that to be any different because it forced me to grow in ways that I did not want to grow. That was a huge trauma in his life, but he wouldn't change it. Same as me. It was a huge trauma in my life, but I wouldn't do anything differently at all. If I could go relive my life from the point I was 18 until the point I was 33, I would not change a single thing. So I think that that's the way that I interpreted this value. Um, is that if you allow the bad things that happen or the bad choices that you make to change who you are as a person, to change your character for the worse, that's on you, not on the other person. You can work through trauma. You can work through things and create a beautiful life for yourself, even if horrible things have happened. And again, that's not discounting the bad things that have happened to people in their life. That's not ignoring the bad things that have happened in life. That's not ignoring the trauma that's associated with it. But there can be some beauty in it. That doesn't mean that it's not going to take a shit ton of work, because it is, but that's a part of life. We're here to learn, we're here to grow. And unfortunately, trauma and sadness and hardship are a part of that. So that leads me into the next one. No man is an island. We need to have community. We need to have social aspects of our lives. Literally, if I did not have my community, I would not be here today. I don't want to die. I don't want to at all. I would never commit suicide. I've honestly told Tony, if it ever looks like I commit suicide, it's somebody murdered me. Like I literally want to live forever, and I'm not exaggerating with that. But if I did not have the community that I had, i.e., Shelby, when I was 23 years old in the midst of my affair, I would not have made it through that. As horrible as that is to say, I would not have made it through that. You need to have community, whether it's in your family, whether it's in your friends, whether it's in your spouse, coworkers, whatever it is. Creating a community is such a beautiful thing. I was telling my therapist about the moon circles too, because he was wanting to know if he could suggest it to some of his clients. So we were kind of talking about it. And I was like, you know what? It just really is such a beautiful thing to be a facilitator and to see people get into a room full of women, because women can be downright nasty to each other, right? To get into a room full of women and to be completely vulnerable, to share their experience, to breathe with them, to move with them, and create this community, because it is so needed. Even if you don't, even if you come to a moon circle and you never talk to anybody else from that circle ever again, for that one night you had a community and you felt like there was people on your side. No matter what it was, there was people on your side. They were all going through the same shit. You were all screaming, you were all crying, you were all moving, you were all breathing. And that's a beautiful thing to see, to stand in front of a group full of women and to facilitate this and to actually see this community forming right in front of my eyes. So I really, really believe in community, whatever your community looks like for you. And it can be different. Like my community at work, my coworker, I would not get through days like today without her. I can vent to her. We work really well as a team. We have fun. We laugh. We bitch and complain about the same things. I would not be able to get through it without her. And she's my community. Like there's community in every little thing that you do. We have to, that is a basic human need, is to have connection with other people. It may seem like a really happy, good idea to be like a recluse in your house. But in the end, I would argue that you would be sad if you didn't have a community of at least one person to rely on and talk to. So sorry. I'm getting the hiccups because I'm talking so much. Okay, so you can really build yourself up in a community. Going off on a tangent there, I told you I'd probably go off on some tangents. This also brings in the golden rule: treat others like you would want to treat yourself. Again, just treat people with respect. That's a part of not being an island and being just a person in the world, is to just treat others with respect. So there is three more. It's all about progress, not perfection. We kind of mentioned that above. Try every day. You don't need to be perfect, but meet yourself where you're at every day. I recorded a meditation. It's on my YouTube channel, Yoga with Tay 2323. It's 3 minutes long. I purposely did it short so that you can use it whenever you want throughout the day. And it's all about checking in with where you are at. If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you need something quick in the morning, like if you need it during your lunch break, it is so quick. Everybody has 3 minutes in the day, whether you do my meditation or not. Everybody has a few minutes in the day to check in and see where you are at, especially in the morning of, hey, let's try and be a little bit better today. We don't need to be perfect, but let's just try today, whatever that looks like for you for the day. Sorry, that was a gross sniff right in the microphone. Okay. Wrong perceptions cause incorrect thinking and unnecessary suffering. And then the last one is embrace the present moment, whatever the present moment looks like. Again, that kind of goes with above. Allow yourself to notice the present moment. I think I mentioned it in the last episode that we go through life busy, busy, busy. We go through things so fast, we don't take a moment to just sit and breathe. We don't take a moment to just be present in our body, to be present in our space. And that is so important to do just for life. So, anyways, that is all I have. Well, actually, I have a lot more that I would like to say, but I don't want to bore you and I don't want to keep you here all night. But I think that this is just a really, really beautiful concept and idea to bring into your life every day. A lot of the times you're already doing it without even realizing that you're doing it. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening. I'm not going to do an asking for a friend tonight because I just don't like to do them by myself. I feel like Shelby's so silly when she answers them. And so, no asking for a friend tonight. But thank you guys so much for being here. Please make sure to like, rate, and review. If you could leave us a written review, that would be so lovely. And make sure that you're following us on Instagram and on YouTube. And please share us with a friend. And let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know if you have any ideas. Let me know if anything really stood out to you that you're going to bring into your daily life. I would love to hear it. And I would love, love, love to have these conversations with you. So thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you guys. We will talk to you soon. Bye.